Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. The first time Maya saw him, she was convinced the universe was playing a cruel joke on her. After 3 years of carefully constructed walls around her heart, after promising herself she would never again let anyone close enough to hurt her, there he was standing in the doorway of the coffee shop where she spent her Tuesday mornings, looking like everything she had sworn off. His name was Gabriel, though she wouldn't learn that until later. What she noticed first were his hands-long fingers wrapped around a worn leather journal, the kind of hands that seemed to hold stories. There was something about the way he moved through the crowded cafe, not rushed like everyone else, but deliberate, as if he understood that some moments were meant to be savored. Maya had become an expert at being invisible. She chose the corner table, always brought a book she didn't read, and perfected the art of seeming busy while actually watching the world pass by. But when Gabriel's eyes found hers across the room, she felt exposed in a way that both terrified and thrilled her. Didn't approach her that first day. Instead, he simply nodded, a small acknowledgement that somehow felt more intimate than any conversation she'd had in months. Then he ordered his coffee, found a seat by the window, and opened his journal. Maya spent the next hour pretending to read while stealing glances at the stranger who had somehow disrupted her carefully ordered world with nothing more than a look. The second time she saw him, a week later, Maya had convinced herself she had imagined the electricity between them. But when Gabriel walked through the door at exactly 9:47 a.m., she had been unconsciously watching the clock. Her heart betrayed her with its rapid acceleration. This time, he did approach her table. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. Maya's throat went dry. "No, it's not." "I'm Gabriel," he said, settling into the chair with an ease that suggested he belonged there. "I've been wanting to ask you about that book you're always reading." Heat crept up Maya's neck. She glanced down at the novel in her hands, the same one she'd been carrying for 2 weeks without turning a single page. "It's single quotes S. complicated," she said, which was true in more ways than one. "The best stories usually are," Gabriel replied, and something in his voice made Maya look up, really look at him for the first time. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, gray with flecks of silver that seemed to shift in the morning light. There were laugh lines at the corners, suggesting a man who found joy easily, and a small scar above his left eyebrow that made Maya wonder about the story behind it. But it was his expression that undid her patient kind, as if he had all the time in the world to wait for her to remember how to form words. "I'm Maya," she said finally, and when he smiled, she felt something long dormant flutter to life in her chest. They talked for an hour that day. Nothing profound, just the careful dance of two people discovering each other's favorite books, worst jobs, childhood memories that still made them laugh. But underneath the ordinary conversation, Maya felt something extraordinary building. It was in the way Gabriel listened, really listened, as if her words were the most important thing in his world. It was in the way he laughed at her dry humor, and how he somehow made her feel clever and interesting instead of damaged and guarded. When he finally had to leave for work, Gabriel hesitated at her table. "Same time next week?" he asked, and Maya found herself nodding before her brain could interfere. "I'll be here," she said, and meant it in a way that scared her. The third week, Gabriel brought 2 coffees and a question that changed everything. "What made you so careful with people?" he asked, sliding the extra cup across the table to her. Maya's instinct was to deflect, to make a joke, or change the subject. But something in Gabriel's expression stopped her. He wasn't asking out of idle curiosity, he was asking because he genuinely wanted to know her, even the parts she kept hidden. Someone I trusted broke that trust, she said simply, in a way that made me question everything I thought I knew about love. Gabriel nodded slowly. His loss, he said, and the quiet conviction in his voice made Maya's chest tighten. What about you? She asked. What's your story? Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, turning his coffee cup in his hands. I lost someone, he said finally. My wife. Cancer. It's been 2 years and I'm still learning how to be in the world without her. Maya felt her heart constrict. I'm sorry. She used to say that love doesn't end just because someone dies. Gabriel continued. That the heart has room for more than one kind of love, more than one chapter. I didn't believe her then, but lately, ... He looked up at Maya, and she saw something vulnerable and hopeful in his eyes. Lately, I think she might have been right. The words hung between them like a bridge, and Maya found herself standing at the edge of it. Terrified of crossing, but equally terrified of staying where she was. I don't know if I remember how, she whispered. Remember how to what? To let someone in. To trust that they won't leave. To believe that I'm worth staying for. Gabriel reached across the table then, his fingers brushing hers with a gentleness that made her breath catch. It was barely a touch, just the whisper of skin against skin, but Maya felt it everywhere in her racing pulse, in the sudden warmth, spreading through her chest, in the way her carefully constructed walls began to tremble. You are, he said simply, worth staying for. Maya stared at their joined hands, at the way his thumb traced small circles on her knuckles, and felt something inside her begin to unfold. It was tentative, fragile, like the first green shoots of spring after a long winter. But it was alive, and it was hers, and for the first time in 3 years, Maya allowed herself to hope. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I, Gabriel said. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the best things happen when we're scared. They sat in comfortable silence after. That, Gabriel's hand still covering hers, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Maya found herself studying his face, memorizing the way the morning light caught in his hair, the gentle strength in his jaw, the way he seemed to carry his grief with grace instead of bitterness. What happens now? She asked eventually. Gabriel smiled, the kind of smile that started in his eyes and spread slowly across his face. Now we take it one day at a time, one conversation at a time, one moment at a time. He lifted their joined hands and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles, and Maya felt her heart stutter. It was such a simple gesture, almost old-fashioned in its sweetness, but it affected her more than any grand romantic gesture ever had. I'd like to take you to dinner, Gabriel said. Somewhere we can talk without worrying about closing time or other people's conversations. Would you like that? Maya's throat felt tight with emotion. Yes, she whispered. I'd like that very much. The restaurant Gabriel chose was small and intimate, the kind of place where conversations happened in hushed tones and candlelight painted everything in warm golden hues. Maya had changed clothes 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that made her feel elegant without trying too hard. Gabriel was waiting when she arrived, and the way his face lit up when he saw her made Maya's stomach flutter with nervous excitement. He stood to greet her, and for a moment they were close enough that she could smell his cologne, something warm and woody that made her want to step closer instead of away. You look beautiful, he said, and Maya felt herself blush. Thank you, she replied, letting him help her with her coat. The evening unfolded like a story Maya had never dared to imagine for herself. Gabriel was attentive without being overwhelming, funny without trying too hard, and interested in everything she had to say. He told her about his work as a high school English teacher, about the students who challenged him and the ones who surprised him. Maya found herself sharing stories she hadn't told anyone in years about her dreams of becoming a photographer, about the small gallery showing she was working toward, about the way she saw the world through her camera lens. "I'd love to see your work sometime," Gabriel said, and Maya felt her heart skip. "Most people find it too melancholy," she said. "I tend to photograph things that are beautiful but impermanent. Flowers just before they wilt, old buildings before they're torn down, moments that won't last." "That sounds profound, not melancholy," Gabriel said. "Maybe you're just documenting the truth that everything beautiful is precious, because it doesn't last forever." Maya looked at him across the table. This man who seemed to understand her in ways she didn't even understand herself, and felt something shift inside her chest. It was terrifying and wonderful and completely beyond her control. "Dance with me," Gabriel said suddenly. Maya glanced around the restaurant. "There's no music." "There's always music," Gabriel replied, standing and extending his hand. "You just have to listen for it." Against her better judgment, Maya took his hand and let him lead her to a small clearing between the tables. Gabriel pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other still holding hers, and they began to sway to the soft jazz playing through the restaurant's speakers. Maya had forgotten how good it felt to be held, to feel the solid warmth of another person's body against hers. Gabriel's hand was gentle but sure on her back, and she found herself relaxing into his embrace, letting her head rest against his shoulder. "This is nice," she murmured against his shirt. "This is perfect," Gabriel replied, and Maya felt his lips press softly against her hair. They swayed together in comfortable silence, and Maya allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to have this, to have someone to come home to, someone who would hold her when she was sad, and celebrate with her when she was happy. Someone who would see all of her, even the broken parts, and choose to stay anyway. When the song ended, Gabriel didn't immediately let her go. Instead, he pulled back just enough to look at her face, his eyes searching hers. "Maya," he said softly, and she saw her own feelings reflected in his expression, the fear, the hope, the desperate want to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could build something beautiful together. "I know," she whispered, and rose on her toes to kiss him. It was a gentle kiss, tentative and sweet, that Maya felt it all the way down to her toes. Gabriel's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek, and Maya thought she might cry from the sheer rightness of it. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing unsteadily. "I should probably take you home," Gabriel said, though his voice suggested it was the last thing he wanted to do. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She knew he was right. They were moving into dangerous territory, the kind where hearts got broken and carefully built walls came tumbling down. But as Gabriel helped her back into her coat, and they walked hand in hand to his car, Maya found herself not caring about the danger. For the first time in 3 years, she was willing to risk everything for the possibility of love. The drive to her apartment was quiet but comfortable, Gabriel's hand resting over hers on the gear shift. When they reached her building, he walked her to the door like a gentleman, and Maya found herself not wanting the evening to end. "Thank you," she said, turning to face him under the soft glow of the porch light. "For dinner, for dancing, for everything. Thank you for taking a chance on me," Gabriel replied, and the sincerity in his voice made Maya's chest tight. Looked at each other for a long moment, both of them seeming to understand that they stood at a crossroads. Maya could feel her heart hammering against her ribs, could feel the weight of possibility hanging between them like a question waiting to be answered. "Gabriel," she said softly, and he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Yes?" "I want to invite you upstairs," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I'm scared that if I do, everything will change. Gabriel's hand came up to cup her face, his touch so gentle it made her eyes flutter closed. Everything already has changed, he said. The question is whether we're brave enough to see where it leads. Maya opened her eyes and looked at him, really. Looked at him and saw her own hopes and fears reflected back at her. But she also saw something else. The promise of a man who would catch her if she fell, who would hold her heart as carefully as she held his. Stay with me, she whispered, and felt the last of her walls crumble to dust. Gabriel's answer was a kiss that tasted like promise and felt like coming home. As Maya led him upstairs, her hand trembling in his, she knew that no matter what happened, next she would never again be the same woman who had sat alone in a coffee shop, hiding behind a book she never read. Gabriel had touched her heart in a way no one else ever could, and Maya was finally ready to let him in. The story of their love was just beginning, and Maya couldn't wait to see how it would unfold.